There's a date circled on trading desks around the world. March 1st, primary delivery month, the moment when contracts become metal or when the system admits it cannot deliver. And this year, something is different. This is not about a specific prediction. This is not about calling a crash or squeeze on a specific day. This is about understanding what March represents in the silver market and why the conditions heading into this March are unlike anything we have seen in modern trading history. Because March is not just another month. March is a pressure test, a moment when the paper market and the physical market have to reconcile, when promises have to become metal. And right now, the data is showing that reconciliation might not be possible. Let me show you exactly what happens on March 1st and why this year is different. The futures market operates on a cycle. Contracts have expiration dates, and certain months are designated as delivery months. These are the months when contracts can be settled with physical metal instead of cash. There are 5 primary delivery months for silver: March, May, July, September, December. These are the months when the system gets tested, when traders who hold contracts have to make a decision, roll forward to the next month, or stand for delivery, demand the actual metal. Most months, most traders roll. They do not want the metal, they want price exposure. They are speculating on direction, not accumulating physical. So the system works. Contracts get rolled, small amounts of metal change hands. The exchange maintains the illusion that every contract is backed by deliverable silver, but occasionally something shifts. Occasionally, more traders than usual decide they want metal, not paper, metal. And when that happens, the system gets stressed, because there is not enough metal in the vaults to deliver against every contract, not even close. The whole system is built on the assumption that most people will not ask for delivery. Fractional reserve, more paper than metal. March is when that assumption gets tested most severely. Let me show you the numbers, because this is where you see the pressure building. COMEX registered inventory, the silver available for delivery, currently sitting at just under 100 million ounces. Open interest in silver futures, the total number of contracts that exist, roughly 150,000 contracts. Each contract represents 5,000 ounces. So 150,000 contracts equals 750 million ounces of silver. Registered inventory, 100 million ounces. Paper claims, 750 million ounces. That is a ratio of 7.5 to 1. For every ounce of silver available, there are 7.5 ounces of paper claims. Now, the system works as long as only a small percentage of those contracts demand delivery. If 5% stand for delivery, that is manageable. 10% maybe, 15% starts getting tight. But what happens if 20% demand delivery? 30%? 50%? The vaults do not have the metal, the exchange cannot fulfill the contracts, and the system breaks. Here's what makes March different this year. The data leading into March is showing delivery demand at levels we have not seen before. January, a minor delivery month, not supposed to see heavy demand. Yet January 2026 became the 6th largest delivery month in COMEX history. 6th largest ever, in a month that is supposed to be quiet. 9,529 contracts delivered, with 4 trading days still remaining at the time. If a minor month sees the 6th largest delivery in history, what happens in March? A primary month, when delivery is expected, when the system is supposed to handle volume. The trajectory suggests something much larger, and the vaults are not prepared. Let me show you what happened in January, because this is the warning signal. January 7th, single day, 8.1 million ounces delivered. Almost all of it from JP Morgan, 99% from one bank. Everyone else combined provided 1%. This tells you 2 things. First, nobody else has metal. The vaults are functionally empty except for JP Morgan. Second, demand is not theoretical. Traders are not just holding contracts, they are demanding metal, real metal, physical delivery. And this is January, a month when demand should be minimal. Now project that into March, when delivery is not just allowed but expected, when contracts are specifically bought with the intention of taking metal. If January saw 8 million ounces in a single day, what does March see? 10 million? 15 million? 20 million per day? The vaults currently hold 100 million total. If March sees sustained daily demand of 10 to 15 million ounces, the registered inventory gets drained in a week. Not a month, a week. Now let me show you why traders are demanding delivery. Because this is about more than just the silver market. This is about trust. For years, the paper price has been the benchmark. COMEX sets the price. The world accepts it. Traders buy contracts. They trade price exposure. They cash settle. The system works. But cracks are showing. Physical premiums in Tokyo, in Dubai, in Seoul, 20 to 30% above the paper price. That gap tells you people do not trust paper anymore. They want metal, and they are willing to pay above the official price to get it. China export restrictions. 70% of global refining now controlled and limited. Supply from the largest source is no longer freely available. Margin hikes from 20,000 to 52,000 in 3 weeks. Retail getting priced out. Only institutions can play. All of these signals point in the same direction. The paper market is losing credibility, and when people lose faith in paper, they demand physical. March is when that demand converges, when everyone who has been watching, who has been waiting, who has been planning, makes their move. Stand for delivery. Demand the metal. Test the system. Let me show you the mechanics of what happens if delivery demand exceeds available inventory. Scenario 1. The exchange fulfills all deliveries. Somehow, metal gets moved from other vaults. Emergency supplies get accessed. Off-exchange silver gets brought in. Everyone who demands delivery gets their metal. This is the best case. The system survives. Trust is maintained. The exchange proves it can deliver when tested. But this requires metal to exist somewhere, in quantities large enough to satisfy demand. And the data suggests that metal is not there. Scenario 2. The exchange declares force majeure. They admit they cannot deliver. Contracts get cash settled instead of physically delivered. At the paper price, not the physical price. This is a default, not officially called that. But functionally, it is an admission that the exchange cannot fulfill its obligations. When this happens, trust collapses. Everyone realizes the paper price is meaningless, the contracts are not backed by metal, the system is fractional reserve, and price discovery shifts, permanently, from paper to physical, from COMEX to the markets where real metal actually trades. Scenario 3. Partial deliveries. The exchange delivers to some traders but not others. Priority goes to institutions. Retail gets delayed or cash settled. This is the most likely outcome if pressure gets too high. The system protects the big players. The small players get sacrificed. But even this scenario damages trust, because it proves the exchange cannot handle full demand. It proves the system only works when most people do not ask for their metal. Now, let me show you the historical precedent. Because this has almost happened before. 2011, silver was rallying, approaching $50. Delivery demand was spiking, the vaults were under pressure, and then the exchange intervened. They raised margins, multiple times, aggressively. They made it prohibitively expensive to hold long positions. The rally broke, silver crashed. Delivery pressure eased, the system survived. But 2011 had something this cycle does not have: available supply. China was still exporting freely. Inventories were higher. The vaults had cushion. 2026 does not have that cushion. China exports are restricted. Inventories have been drained by 70%. The vaults are running on fumes. If delivery pressure builds in March, there is no easy relief valve, no large supply source to tap, no emergency stockpile to access. The system is more fragile now than it was in 2011, and delivery demand is already higher in a minor month than it was during that crisis. Let me show you the timing of why March matters specifically. Futures contracts do not just expire on one day, they expire throughout the month, but the concentration of expiration happens in the first week. March 1st is when the highest volume of contracts reaches decision point. Roll or stand, cash or metal, paper or physical. The first week of March is when the pressure peaks, when the maximum number of traders are making that decision simultaneously. If the system is going to break, if delivery demand is going to exceed supply, it happens in the first week of March. Not the middle, not the end, the beginning. This is why March 1st is the date. Not because something definitely happens on that specific day, but because that is when the conditions align for maximum stress. Now let me address what this means for different types of silver holders. Because the implications are not the same for everyone, if you hold physical silver, metal, in your possession, you're outside the COMEX system entirely. March 1st does not affect you directly, but it affects you indirectly, because if COMEX has delivery problems, if the exchange admits it cannot fulfill contracts, the premium on physical over paper will explode. Your metal becomes more valuable, not because the COMEX price went up, but because physical and paper separate permanently, and physical trades at the real price. If you hold silver ETFs, exchange-traded funds, paper claims on silver, you need to understand what you actually own. Most ETFs do not give you the right to demand physical delivery. You own shares, not metal. If the ETF holds COMEX contracts, and those contracts cannot be delivered, what does your share represent? A claim on paper, not a claim on metal. And paper claims become worthless when the underlying system breaks. If you trade silver futures, you're directly exposed to March delivery dynamics. You need to decide now, before March. Are you rolling forward, or are you standing for delivery? If you stand, are you prepared for the possibility that delivery gets delayed, or cash settled, or prioritized away from you? These are not hypothetical questions. These are decisions you will have to make in the next few weeks. Let me show you the signals to watch. Because March 1st is not a light switch. It is a process. And there will be indicators along the way. Signal 1, open interest heading into March. If open interest stays elevated, if contracts do not get rolled early, it means traders are planning to stand for delivery. Historically, open interest drops sharply before delivery month. Traders exit. They do not want the hassle of taking metal. If open interest stays high this time, it is a warning. It means delivery demand is going to be significant. Signal 2, registered inventory. If registered silver continues draining in February. If the vaults keep getting drawn down, there will be less cushion for March. Currently at 100 million ounces. If that drops to 80 million, 70 million, 60 million, the pressure intensifies. Signal 3, delivery notices. These are the official notifications that a trader intends to take delivery. They start appearing a few days before the delivery date. If delivery notices in the first few days of March are significantly higher than historical averages, it confirms the pressure is real. Watch these 3 signals: open interest, registered inventory, delivery notices. They will tell you if March is going to be a normal month or a crisis month. Now let me show you the institutional positioning, because the big players are not blind to this. They see the same data, and they are positioning accordingly. JP Morgan, 750 million ounces, completely long, no shorts. They closed their entire short position right before this setup. They are positioned to benefit from delivery stress. They have the metal. When others cannot deliver, JP Morgan can, and they can charge premiums. This is not charity, this is business. If the vaults run dry and buyers are desperate, the entity with metal controls the price. Other banks, quietly reducing their short exposure. Closing positions, moving to neutral or long. Nobody wants to be caught short in a delivery squeeze. The commercial traders who usually suppress rallies, who usually sell into strength, they are not selling as aggressively. They are letting the market run because they know what is coming in March. And they do not want to be on the wrong side when it happens. Let me show you what happens after March. Because even if the system survives March, the pressure does not end. May is the next primary delivery month, 2 months after March. If March sees significant delivery stress, May will be worse, because traders will see that delivery is possible, that metal can be extracted from the system, and more traders will try. July, September, December. Each primary month becomes a test. Each month adds pressure. This is not a one-time event. This is the beginning of a cycle, where delivery demand keeps increasing, where trust in paper keeps declining, where the gap between paper and physical keeps widening. March is the first major test. But it is not the last. It is the start of a process that ends with either the paper market collapsing or reforms that make the system deliverable again. Now let me address the counter-argument, because some people will say this is fear-mongering, that the system has survived delivery pressure before, that COMEX always finds a way. That is true. Historically, the exchange has managed. They have raised margins. They have incentivized cash settlement. They have moved metal from other vaults. But historically, they were not dealing with China export restrictions. They were not dealing with 70% inventory depletion. They were not dealing with physical premiums of 20 to 30% above spot. The conditions are different now. The margin for error is smaller. The available solutions are fewer. Yes, the system might survive March. It might find a way. But the cost of surviving gets higher each time. And each time the system barely survives, more people lose trust. More traders move to physical. More pressure builds for the next delivery month. This is not sustainable. Something has to give. Either supply increases dramatically, or demand decreases dramatically, or the system breaks. Let me give you the timeline, because this is not just about March 1st. This is about the progression leading up to it, and the aftermath following it. Mid-February, watch open interest. If it stays high, delivery intention is confirmed. Late February, watch registered inventory. If it drops below 80 million, stress is building. March 1st. First delivery notices appear. The volume tells you how severe this will be. March 1st through 5th. Peak delivery period. Maximum stress on the vaults. This is when problems emerge, if they are going to emerge. March 10th. By this point, the outcome is clear. Either the system delivered smoothly, or there were problems. If there were problems, if delays happened, if cash settlements were forced, the market reacts. Physical premiums spike, trust collapses. If delivery went smoothly, the system survives another quarter. But the underlying issues remain, and May becomes the next test. Now let me show you the asymmetric risk, because this is important for decision making. If March goes smoothly, if the exchange delivers everything, if there are no problems, what happens? Silver probably consolidates, maybe pulls back slightly. The system proved it works. Some traders take profits. Life goes on. But if March has problems, if deliveries are delayed, if the exchange cannot fulfill demand, what happens? Physical premiums explode. The gap between paper and physical doubles or triples. Trust in COMEX collapses. Price discovery shifts to physical markets. This is asymmetric risk. The downside of being prepared is minimal. Silver consolidates. You hold physical that might go sideways for a while. The downside of not being prepared is catastrophic. You are holding paper during a delivery crisis. Your claims become worthless. The metal you thought you owned does not exist. Risk-reward is not balanced. The cost of being wrong by preparing is small. The cost of being wrong by not preparing is total. Let me show you what smart money is doing, because you can see the positioning in the data. Physical purchases accelerating, not futures, not ETFs. Physical metal, bars and coins, delivery taken from dealers, wait times extending. Orders that used to fill in days now take weeks. Supply at the retail level is tightening, premiums rising, not just in Tokyo and Dubai, in the United States and Europe. Physical is trading above spot, everywhere. This is not panic, this is preparation. Institutional buyers are securing physical before March, before the test, before delivery problems potentially emerge. They are not waiting to see what happens. They are positioning before it happens. Now let me address the possibility that I am wrong, because I want to be clear about uncertainty. It is entirely possible that March goes smoothly, that the exchange delivers everything, that inventory does not run out, that the system survives without problems. I do not have a crystal ball. I cannot see the future. March 1st might come and go with nothing dramatic happening. But here is what I am certain about. The conditions heading into March are the tightest they have been in modern history. Inventory is lower, delivery demand is higher, supply restrictions are tighter. Whether those conditions produce a crisis in March specifically, or in May or in July, I do not know. But the pressure is building, and eventually, pressure finds the weakest point. March is a test. It might not be the test that breaks the system, but it is a test under unprecedented conditions. And if you wait until after the test to prepare, if you wait until after delivery problems emerge to secure physical, you will be competing with everyone else who waited. Let me give you the conclusion. Because this is not about predicting March 1st. This is about understanding what March represents. March is a pressure point, a moment when paper and physical have to reconcile, when contracts have to become metal, when the system gets tested. This year, the test happens under conditions we have not seen before. Lower inventory, higher demand, restricted supply, physical premiums, margin hikes, institutional positioning. All of these factors converge in March, the first primary delivery month of 2026. If the system survives, it survives by the slimmest margin yet, and the next test comes in May. If the system breaks, if delivery problems emerge, the silver market changes permanently. Trust in paper collapses, physical takes over, price discovery shifts. Either way, March matters. Not because something definitely happens on March 1st, but because March is when the conditions for a system failure align. If this continues, if delivery pressure keeps building, if inventory keeps draining, the paper market becomes unsustainable. At some point, the ratio of paper claims to physical metal becomes so extreme that even small increases in delivery demand break the system. We might be at that point now. March will tell us. By the time the problems become public, by the time the exchange admits there are delivery issues, by the time the media starts covering it, it will already be too late. The moves that matter happen before the crisis. Not during, not after. Before. Someone is holding physical right now. Someone secured metal in January. Someone is not waiting to see what happens in March because they already know the conditions are unprecedented. The question is whether you see it, or whether you wait for confirmation that will not come until after it is too late. Mark the date. March 1st. Not because something will definitely happen, but because the conditions for something to happen have never been more aligned.